Hey, what's up, guys? It's almost New Year's here in Florida, right? And where I'm at is actually somewhat inland, maybe about a half hour less from the coast, the west coast. And you have these amazing, beautiful oaks with ferns growing out of them and Spanish moss. And this stuff here, Spanish moss, these are the gnarled oaks, so beautiful down here. It's it's warm but not super hot like it is in Florida a lot of the time. It can get cold at night here this time of year, but it's a beautiful place, obviously. This is DeSantis land. Some of those large states that used to be Spanish, some of the best states in my opinion, and they're huge. They're literally like little countries. Were the ones where the Spanish had settled before the English. And it's just the wildlife here is, you have everything. South of here you have a state park full of thousands of alligators. You got deer running everywhere, turkey, and you got wild pigs also running around. Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. So it was a nice Christmas down here. Last time I was down here for Christmas, it was cold. It was like in the upper 30s and windy. And it was chilly. But here it's just, it's beautiful. Yeah. Am I gonna move here? That's the dilemma. But the decision more and more is gonna be taken out of my hands. The Northeast is not really leaving much for me. And a lot of people feel that way. Anyway, I want to show you a very interesting book. Yeah, man, I tell you, see that fence? That fence is to keep out wild pigs. It's interesting. Yeah, well, this deer, the deer jumped right over that though. Yeah, been looking at this book. It's one of those letters, Lovecraft, right? Writing to R.H. Barlow, a young kid who became his executor. There's a whole controversy about that. I've been reading through this book. Of course, St. Joshi is involved. Obviously, Lovecraft probably wrote 10 times as many letters as he did weird tales. And it's always interesting to read that, how much Lovecraft was amazed by these oaks and the Spanish moss he mentions frequently, as well as liking the warmer weather. It's well known that Lovecraft did not like the cold. Yeah. And also Lovecraft traveled as much as his expenses would allow. He traveled a bit. He loved two of the same cities that I went through that I loved a lot too. St. Augustine. I have old videos on the fort there, the Spanish fort. And of course, Charleston, South Carolina. But this book is a very interesting book. There's a lot of interesting things here. Some of these letters he wrote right near before he passed away. And I like how they have the cover here. But I'll go through this a little bit. Some interesting anecdotes. Lovecraft was, like I keep saying, he was a progressive. Right? It's controversial to say such things because he never stopped believing in something else to the very end. But fascinating book. And I'm going to go over some of it. I just like to show the juxtaposition of these oaks with the moss, man. Really, really beautiful. Yeah. Huh? Like this here, Lovecraft's describing Florida, right? It's hard to convey the mass effect of a scene like this. The black, silent, glassy river with its cryptic bends, the monstrously tall cypresses with their festoons of moss, the twisted roots clawing at the water, the ghastly leaning palms, the riot of underbrush, vines and creepers, the black, dank earth, the grotesque sunken logs, the muted, sinister, scarcely identifiable sounds of forest and water, the evilly beckoning vistas and funereal arcades among the towering trees of that wood, the fungus, leprous flowers, damn dude, that have never felt full sunlight, and everything to suggest some exotic world of fantasy in which one would not be surprised to see the crumbling aeon, decayed, moss-grown masonry of one of Two Gun Bob's, Robert E. Howard's, forgotten jungle ruins. I like that, how he describes, he was in a swamp, but... Now, of course, Barlow, there's a whole controversial thing in here with him because he became Lovecraft's executor, and there's a lot of bad blood amongst the people there. Particularly Clark Ashton Smith had a real problem with him. But I thought it was interesting, a little essay that Barlow wrote describing Lovecraft, right here. But he was much more than a story writer. Barring certain accidents, such as his connections with the amateur press, he might have never have gone back to writing stories at all after his adolescence. He is more important as a man who had the integrity to ignore the machine age and its frenzied leveling out to rubble of life's rich irregularities, who had the courage to study and think and converse and write, and to stimulate others to study and think and converse and write, in accordance with deeper traditions of a more orderly age. That was pretty interesting. Some other interesting things in here too. Everything from Lovecraft describing his was it tin can and cookie diet because he didn't have a ton of money. I can't imagine that having an effect on your intestines. He also describes how it's funny, right? As he was getting older, he was becoming very much, enamored of FDR, the New Deal, and even describing himself as a socialist. Now, I knew that. In a way, I keep saying that Lovecraft was very, very, very much a progressive at the same time, right? An atheist materialist, just like his friends were. But many of his friends in New York, who he visited, even though he hated New York, he visited it all the time and hung with them. Many of them, as you can imagine, if you know who some of them were actually full-blown communists, or enamored of communism. And Lovecraft never could quite do that. And of course, there's the other strain of his thought he kept to the end as well. So, which is very interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things in here. I'll go through a few of them as I walk. I need something to put this down on. So, modernity, get out of here.